Welcome to the March edition of the Small Business Strategy Committee at the Mesa Chamber of Commerce. I am your staff liaison to this committee. My name is Bob Nelson. And I know that there's a crowded room with us today, but let's go around and let everybody introduce themselves. And we will start with Mr. Bookmaze,
Okay, Mr. Bookmaze. I'm Mike.
otherwise, otherwise
I'll
known
sit
as
down
Mike.
before.
Kelly Keffer.
Buddy, my name is Lee Pepper. I'm an economic development project manager with the city of Mesa. I've been here 13 years, and I primarily oversee our small business and entrepreneurship programs, but I wear many, many hats and do lots of things as well.
Very cool. And Dave, sorry.
Yeah, Dave Winterborn with Zoom Drain. So I'm relatively new to both the chamber and to the world of small business. I just started this operation last October. So I thought I would drop in here since I am a small business and working on my own strategy and development. So I figured like that all works.
It all works. It all fits. Thank you
Yeah.
for being here today. And Mr. Adams.
Rich Adams, and this, guys, I'm the president and CEO of Credit Management Association, chamber member, and yeah, glad to be here. See what I can contribute.
Yeah, Rich has been with the Chamber for a long time. Thank you for being a member and supporting us in everything that we do. So I had asked Rich to join us today because today's central topic is actually a project that he's been involved with for a number of years. So he and I are going to kind of tag team a little bit on it. I'm going to kind of work the slides and then kind of describe what they are, and he'll just kind of add any color commentary to them. But before we do that, I did want to ask Rich if you'd step just for a moment into your council member shoes. And if you have any updates for the committee in relation to council items.
Oh, well, we as a council just got through with our strategic planning session, our strategic objectives, and I think it was a very productive session. The good news I think that came out of it is while the seven of us, six council members and the mayor, of course, each had our individual areas of interest in the major and primary areas like public safety, quality of life, supporting business, particularly small business, safe neighborhoods, responsible and intelligent growth. We're pretty much all as a council on the same page. So I was happy to participate in that, and of course these things all align with our 2050 general plan, Vision 2050. So that's one of the more recent things we've done, and we're just about to dive into budget season, which is always fun. But that's kind of the high points of life as a council member, and just finished my freshman year in that role. So it's been a learning curve. A pleasure and an honor to serve.
Congratulations and thank you for being with us in that capacity. You may now remove that hat and put Better Credit Management hat back on so that we can get to the real fun stuff. I did have a couple of agenda items that I'm going to bypass today, given that we do not have probably enough people in the meeting to really have a good discussion on them. One of those is discussion of nominating a board chair or a committee chair. I don't think we have enough peeps in the room to have that conversation, so I'm going to go ahead and shelve that till next month. And the other is elected officials outside of Mr. Adams. We did not have anyone present, and we do not have anyone present from the chamber board. So those I'm going to go ahead and just shelve those. The chamber board meets once every, I think it's every other month now. So we don't really have much to update because they haven't met. So there you go. All right, let's just dive into today's topic. Ryan, I see you jumped in. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, I'm late.
No worries. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to share this screen, and I'm going to ask Mr. Adams, if you would, sir, just kind of give us a starting point on the history of this survey.
Well, I'll be happy to. It goes back actually a bit over, probably closer to 25 years. when the partner, Jim Reed, who's now at Udall Shumway, one of the two title sponsors of this survey, actually launched this survey at another firm when he was over at a firm in Phoenix. And it ran for 6 or 7 years at that firm and was picked up by the business folks at the Arizona Republic, and it started to gain some traction. He then moved on from that firm, and where he landed, they weren't interested. Fast forward to, 7 years ago or so, Jim landed at Udall Shumway. We all know the name Udall, a very well-rooted Mesa firm. Dale Shumway and David Udall founded in 1965. So Jim presented the idea to management there at Udall Shumway. They liked it. And Jim and I have known each other in the Credit Management Association world for, over 30 years. And we decided to relaunch it. And, I guess it's grown. I would say it's grown a little bit every year, and we've picked up the attention of Richard Ruelas, one of the editors over at the Republic last year. And it's steadily grown in its circulation. We've had some great partners with the Chamber, Phoenix East Valley Partnership, Visit Mesa, now the East Valley Chamber Alliance. So that's kind of the thumbnail history, and it's always been intended as a service to the sponsoring organization members and the members of Credit Management Association, which is a 130-some-year-old multi-state trade association of business credit grantors.
Cool. All right. Well, let's just
go ahead. That was a long elevator ride.
It's all right. It's all good. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of zip through it a little bit. And the objective here is kind of to talk about, and this is very interactive. So you guys can actually throw out your thoughts and ideas in relation to how you might use some of this information within the context of your business. So what decisions this information might influence, that kind of thing. Now, I will obviously with understanding of the fact that this survey has data now that is probably 60 days old. It is entirely possible that there are changing information in relation to what answers people might give today versus what people gave us right at the end of the year. So keep that in mind, and we'll move forward with that. If everybody's ready, I'm just going to kind of scroll down. There's your guys. There you go. There's nice guys. Nice guys. We're going to keep
Bob,
going.
We've always felt it's kind of like fresh fish. It's good for a few days, maybe a week, when a survey like that goes on.
So anyway, I'm going to kick us off, Rich, with the actual very first, the section 1, your expectations for your Arizona company in 2026. And really, with that first question where it talks about, do you anticipate your sales for your company will increase or decrease in 2026? And really, that was a pretty strong response at 60% increase. What do you think?
I thought so as well. I was surprised.
So the indication there is that people are feeling fairly positive about spending, about engagement, those kinds of things. So I would think that if you're a business, you're kind of planning for the potential of adding infrastructure or staff. Mike, I see you're zipping in there. No, muted. Okay, got you. So, as a business, this might be an indication that you might want to prepare for a busier season than maybe normal, or things of that nature. I don't know. What do you think, Ryan? Do you find that like sentiment in the community impacts how you are seen in terms of like activity?
In terms of activity of the county in purchasing?
Yeah. So, I don't know if I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself real quick, but I kind of wanted to see if sentiment reflects the same way for the county that it might for the city.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that's so difficult to say overall. Ultimately, how businesses are engaging with us depends on how comfortable they're feeling in the economy and in the performance of the business. So it's a little different than I say another business might, um, perceive public engagement, etc. Um, yeah, difficult to answer. I think I might plead the fifth on this one until I can dwell on it a bit more.
Okay, and that's okay. Mainly the thing is that we now have 60 days of data, effectively, that since this sentiment was expressed, to kind of see if some of this is starting to manifest itself in relation to reality versus what people are saying here. So that's kind of where I'm fishing with that. So I'll just kind of zip into the next question. Do you anticipate an increase or decrease in the number of companies competing locally in your business area in 2026? So, Dave, maybe I'm curious. The sentiment was that there's really going to be no change at 48%, but do you find that you might be seeing more competitors or fewer competitors or?
I don't know. I think probably, I mean, the in the plumbing world, which is where I am, it's pretty packed already. So I don't know that it's going to change much. Because there'll be those that come and those that go. So it's hard to tell though, but I don't really anticipate it's going to be a big change.
Okay. And I know I deal a lot in the book industry where Mike is, and so he and I have had a lot of conversations about what's happening in relation to new bookstores or new gaming stores and that kind of thing, and what is going on there and the trends and such. So, Mike, did you want to pop in on that, or are you good?
Well, I'm not sure that books or gaming is a big enough market to really establish any trends. I mean, it's very dependent on three main companies in the games, and that's Pokemon, Magic, and Games Workshop, and what they're doing. So Games Workshop's going to be in a lull until their movies come out, then they'll explode. And there's a lot of people getting into that market right now because of cards are way up, Pokemon's way up. No one's getting into books, those are nuts. That's pretty much it for that market. I mean, they're not really tied to any macroeconomic situation.
Okay. So, almost very like media based if there's media promoting it.
Well, if you got traffic, if the overall economy is good in the valley area and you got people coming through, then you're going to have an uptick. If you don't, you're not. I mean, you're completely reliant on what you have in your area. You got about 5 miles in a brick and mortar.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, I'm gonna stop me if you want to keep on a specific item, but I'm gonna kind of keep us moving through some of the other questions, and specifically, I'm gonna move to the hiring and sort of that area. Basically, it's a very strong sentiment, 86% overall, that either people are either going to stay the same in terms of their hiring or they're actually going to increase their hiring. Rich, I know you with CMA, are you seeing any indication that that is holding true?
It's an interesting question you ask, and it's interesting the way we ask it because as we're talking about it, it occurs to me there's hiring overall and there's hiring departmentally, and we're hearing from our members that they as a credit and finance department are not seeing much movement in terms of expansion or hiring. And it just occurred to me we should probably ask that question differently in terms of either industry, which could get real complicated, or this is an overall question. But to answer yours, no, our folks are not seeing any hiring in their particular departments. And that's really all being a trade association that services credit managers, that's really all we focus on.
Okay. And that kind of extends. You did a little bit of this next question was very interesting. And you kind of were exploring the idea of allowing work from home, and it seemed like that sentiment is still very strong, at almost half, saying that either some will have the option to work from home or work part of the work week at home. Does anybody have any follow-up comment on that? I know we probably don't have the right businesses for that. We have, retail and services, so those both kind of require people to be on site. So that might be a little bit of a challenge for you guys, but happy to take any comments on that if you have any.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say is, as you can anticipate, obviously the plumbing technicians have to be where the pipes are, but certainly from the standpoint of support staff, I do have one virtual assistant who, by that definition, is working from their house, and so I think that that's you know, common for support staff versus the ones in the field.
Okay. Yeah, I looked at it and I was like, wait, we most everybody that's on the call are people that need to be somewhere to do what they do. So
Yeah, yeah, it can be
so
hard
that
to
kind
work
of
from
makes
home.
that a tough that makes that a tough assessment. I did also want to point out the tariffs related question. So I'm saying this because Rich can't see the presentation, so I want to make sure he knows where we are in the presentation. But the tariffs question was very interesting in that a third basically accounted for it as being a considerable impact in 2026, with almost another third saying that they didn't know, and 42% saying that they really didn't expect it to be an impact. Um, Thoughts on that, anybody? Ryan, do you collect any data on that? Do you guys know if the county collects any sort of information in regards to sentiments of like, hey, we're paying X% more than we were last year or anything like that?
We do get emails from businesses letting us know and trying to renegotiate contracts, but not as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
Bob, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think a lot of that's also industry driven, depending on, manufacturers, I think maybe feeling this heat a little bit more. Potentially some of the retailers, but honestly, I think that this is hitting the manufacturers a little bit heavier at the moment.
And I don't disagree with that at all. I think you'll see a definitive line between who's answering this question in regards to the three sections.
What I can tell you is that we're seeing a lot more requests for assistance regarding financials from the small business community. So, whether that's shrinking margins, whether that's tariffs, whether that's workforce, not sure 100% what's behind all of that driving, if it's a slowdown in general with discretionary spending, but we are seeing more requests for assistance from a financial perspective than we have seen in the past. And then going back to workforce or work from home folks, I think that we are also seeing a lot of businesses that don't necessarily, they're saving overhead by doing work from home and then using common places or spaces for team meetings versus office.
Very good. I'm gonna float over that next tariff related question because I think we've kind of covered that. So um, yeah, I'm gonna kind of float to the inflation question just real quick and give anybody that wants to talk about to this can. But basically, the question was asked: to what extent do you anticipate that your company's cost of revenues will be impacted by inflationary trends? And there was a very significant response saying moderately, so that there was going to be some sort of impact. And Rich, do you want to touch on that a little bit?
The commentary that I got back on that from those who chose to comment was, I think there was still some uncertainty in the late fall about, and it's kind of follows the other one about the effects of tariffs Um, and if I recall, there wasn't a great deal of certainty about where the Fed was going to go. Wasn't that still, something tells me that was still a little bit in flux right then, or it could have been that it was clear that Powell was going to go, but trying to cast back on some of the commentary that we got, and I think it was surrounding those two things.
Well, I think that at that point the new governor had just been appointed, and they were waiting to see what his first where he was going to fall in that first meeting was a big part of that.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
think Powell's term is ending, regardless of whether he's forced out or just his term ends. Is he's leaving it one way or another. So
Yeah, it goes in June, I think. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it was just it was an interesting response that there is some concern of inflation amongst the respondents to the survey, but not quite fear. More like, yeah, I think something's going to happen, but I'm not sure what.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead.
we didn't get a feeling of panic from many people at all. I mean, there have been years where we've had much more concern about things not going well.
I'm gonna float over the shutdown question because I don't think that became a I think that ended pretty quickly and was not a significant item. If I'm wrong, certainly feel free to jump in and talk to
No,
it.
we broke a rule on that one, and that we try not to ask what you might consider as one time issue or highly politically charged issues or things like that. No, we probably shouldn't have even asked it, because clearly it was going to end at some point in time. We weren't going to be talking about it right now.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it. I think it was a moot point at that. Even by the time you'd publish
Yep.
this, I think it was over. So I
Yep.
do want to touch briefly on the artificial intelligence question because I think that that is a good indicator of where people think we're going in not just workforce, but technology and infrastructure and so forth, so on and so forth. And it seems like um, there's a significant portion of people that feel like it's not doing anything yet. So, basically, to what extent did you anticipate that your company will rely upon artificial intelligence as a resource for information or the performance of job functions? There were still 42% saying mildly at the time that this survey was taken. So, I would love to hear, Dave, your thoughts on that because I know you're in a trade industry, and if you're seeing anything.
Yeah, I mean, for us, there's a lot of AI that is being leveraged for, running the business, everything from marketing to legal questions, getting, sort of like before you take it to an attorney, get things kind of together in terms of what you need to discuss around partnerships or contracts. I mean, personally, as a small business owner, I don't know how anybody could do it without AI these days. It's just such a useful tool for, trying to wear many hats that you're not qualified to wear. And it's significantly improved in just such a short period of time. I think the pace of change here is phenomenal, and I think we're going to see it used a lot more. I mean, obviously, I'm not using it to do the plumbing work, but I'm using it in every other aspect of the business. And the tools that we use, the software tools we use, every single one of them has AI capabilities built into it. So it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere now.
Which I would tend to agree with, and the exposure that I've had to membership in relation to what they're telling us they're dealing with is it's becoming much more of a baseline work tool in a lot of admin areas and a lot of functions than it was even 12 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Mm.
mean, for me, it's not necessarily going to reduce the workforce because I'm running with barely any workforce the way it is. Um, but I certainly think a lot of those entry level positions that a lot of companies have will either be reframed. So you'll still have like entry level people doing the work, but you'll have them doing the work with AI tools, and they'll be doing work that's more maybe one level above where they might have been otherwise, like analyst type of work.
Mm.
But it's definitely going to be something that improves productivity across the board.
So I'm gonna zip us real quick over to what the expectations were for the Arizona economy overall in 2026. And it looked like there was a fairly significant improved sentiment at 38%. But if you combine the remain stable and the improved sentiment, that's almost 80% of respondents. And um, Rich, would you say, I mean, you're in the credit industry, so I mean, would you say that your clients are still kind of in that space?
I don't have any feedback or other information or data to suggest that they're not. We thought that was a pretty bullish answer, then probably one of the highest in that regard that we've seen in my experience with the survey. So I thought it was indicative of a real optimism. And I haven't really seen any indications that that's starting to fade. The credit folks will usually see trouble before other areas in our member companies, and we're not hearing it just yet. But over the years, doing this over 30 years, that can change real fast. It's
Oh,
it's
sure.
not a creep. It doesn't creep in. It storms in sometimes.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on that, or because I want to kind of roll into, okay, I'm going to roll into Kelly's question. This is Kelly's question because she's in economic development. Do you anticipate that out-of-state businesses relocating or expanding in Arizona will impact your revenues? Really, this is, do we think more businesses coming to Arizona from outside of Arizona? And I'm going to let Kelly lead on this one.
I think if we look at it as supply chain relocates or relocates, obviously with TSMC, we start looking in the supply chain area. I think that you will see positive revenue impact from those new businesses, as well as other supported suppliers to some of the other companies that we've seen recently locating in Greater Phoenix, let alone in Mesa. We've had tremendous growth in those areas. So I think as you get more businesses coming in, you also have more B2B opportunities, business to business opportunities. So how is it that businesses that are already exist here can do more business with these new companies here in Mesa? Does that help? Does that answer your question, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is, do we expect that if other businesses out of state are coming in here, is it going to impact your revenues either in a positive way or a negative way? And obviously, you can see that at just about 60% positive. Most people are thinking that whatever comes in is going to help them to make more money. So,
And I think for those who are concerned that it may have an effect, a negative impact on that, then this is time to really look at your marketing and sales strategy and make sure that you're showing that up or that you're taking steps to help solidify your customer base. Really, I mean, I'm going to, continue to pound the pavement on the relationship economy and how in order to be successful as a business, you need to be more mindful about creating relationships with your customers and less transactional. Sure. The long-term, value of a customer is certainly much higher than if you're constantly trying to generate new customers. So, again, to the businesses, we really recommend that you work on building relationships with the companies like so.
okay. I'm gonna float over the next couple of questions. They're water based, so I'm going to acknowledge that for Dave, access to water as a plumbing company is important. If that's sufficient for everybody.
Yeah, water's good.
Water's good. Yeah, okay, there we go. Water's good. I mean the question where we talk about the confidence in state and local government to kind of predict access to groundwater at about 70%, between somewhat confident and very confident, that's 84% of the respondents. So I think there's a good sentiment that they're going to get represented well in water rights discussions and that kind of thing. So I think we're just going to keep moving. And then So, Rich, talk a little bit about because you went specifically to Taiwan Semiconductor. Um, what was the thinking in going that going there with that?
Well, I think it was to confirm what we felt in that it's probably one of the largest projects of its kind that we've seen in a long while, if ever. And we were trying to get a feeling for its the ripple effect, if you will, and uh, and to see what might come along in its wake, if you will. But I think our in discussions when we were putting these questions together, it was, wow, we haven't seen something like this before, so let's ask people, what they're feeling about it.
And just to kind of give everybody some scope, the respondents to the survey were all mainly East Valley business owners, right? Is that accurate?
Primarily, probably the farthest west on these respondents, I would say, would be maybe East Central Phoenix.
Okay. So you're looking at what people in the East Valley are saying in relation to this topic. So,
Yep,
okay.
yep.
All
Could
right.
be entirely different if you talk to people out in Peoria.
Right, right. And then I noticed that you addressed the H1B visa situation. Um, I don't know, I don't think that would Dave, Mike, I don't think that impacts either of you guys, does it?
No, not in my current work.
Not not directly, but I mean everything impacts you one way or the other.
Well, yeah, at some level, sure. Sure. And then it kind of dives into recent legislative initiatives of the Arizona State Legislature in directing aspects of residential development and use within Valley municipalities. So I'm assuming that this is related to housing and um, multifamily housing. Rich, is that kind of
Yeah, this was a safe a safe way of sticking our toe into some of the legislature's, shall we say, some people perceive their activities to be somewhat overreaching into what should be the domain of municipalities
got it? Okay.
Which wasn't
Uh,
that
without going
specifically,
there.
yeah,
that was specifically driven by a certain project in Scottsdale, right?
I think Kelly, I don't think he heard you.
No, I didn't hear the question.
Oh, really that kind of popped up because of a specific development project in Scottsdale, correct?
In part, yes.
Yes.
And then
In part, and there, and it's now come to fruition. We're dealing with at least two bills that I'm aware of where some folks in the legislature think they ought to be able to have total control of zoning at the local level, for example.
Right.
so there's a quick check-in on the temperature of commercial development. Do you anticipate commercial construction and commercial development will go up, stay the same, or decrease? And I think that response is fairly in line with everyone's anticipation that Arizona and specifically Phoenix and the East Valley are going to continue to be growth spurs for the region. I don't think there was any surprise there. Rich?
No, in fact, I think we've asked that question for several years running, and it always comes in about where this one did.
So and then, of course, optimism about the 2026 Arizona economy. Um, almost two out of every three people, so 60% are saying that they're optimistic about the 2026 Arizona economy. Dave, Mike, what are your thoughts on that? Would you agree with that, or
Yeah, I would generally agree with that. I mean, it's all local. I mean, you could have one part of the valley doing really well and another part not doing so well, I mean, you're going to have South Phoenix probably is not going to do well. I mean, there's none of the projects that are going on are going to help that part of the valley.
And Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that I'm optimistic, but I don't say I wouldn't say that I have a lot of reasons, a lot of like solid evidence of exactly why. I just think that things are going to continue in this general trajectory that is, more or less optimistic. I think people are going to settle into, whatever our reality is around AI and tariffs and things like that and move on. So I do feel pretty optimistic, but I don't have strong data.
I'm glad you said that because we've felt over the years that this is as much a boots on the ground. What's it feel like in your gut kind of a response question, much more so than a hard data type of a survey where
Yeah.
people are talking about the number of starts or new construction starts or overall lending amounts or number of people hired versus number of people laid off. It's always been more of a what's the sentiment out there, and I guess depending on the use, that's valuable. Or if you're a data junkie, it's probably not worth much. But I'm
Yeah,
glad you said that. You don't know why, but in your gut you feel pretty good.
well, I mean, what would I base that on? Well, I'd base it on just the amount of activity I see in terms of construction and projects. And like you mentioned, every single road imaginable is under construction right now. Great coordination.
Yeah,
But there's
yeah.
especially, I live out in the Southeast Valley in Queen Creek, and, that area has just been, growing like crazy out there. And then with the data centers going around Eastmark and that area, it feels like there's a lot of economic activity happening. Um, talking about, I know you glossed over the water problem. I mean, I always ask, and this is, I think, just as much a psychological response as well, because I will forever wonder where are we getting the water now, and where are we going to get the water with all the building happening? Because it just feels like this is not exactly a water-rich place, um, but that's also not something I have super strong evidence for, how secure our groundwater resources really are, how much they're being depleted and things like that. So it's the same kind of thing. It's a sentiment-based response, but just based on what I'm just seeing around me.
So, Dave, remind me, and I will send you. We actually worked with SRP. We did a water resource presentation not that long ago, and I know it got recorded and posted, so I can dig that up and send that to you because they talk about like where does the water come from? Like, is it all Colorado River water? Is it all groundwater? Like, where does it all come from? And so it gives you a really good insight as to Mesa's 100-year plan and our place in the
Hmm.
regional water environment and all of that. It's a great meeting. I'll get that over to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. I just did for my own curiosity, because
Yeah.
it's always like a question that we ask at home. Like, this is nuts. We're building more and more and more houses now. Granted, I know that the houses, typically a residential community, takes requires less water than the corresponding fully developed agricultural equivalent. And so, I think that's where some of the savings is happening, is in that East Valley area. So many of what used to be farms are being turned into housing developments. So, maybe that actually is a good thing from the water perspective.
Yeah, it's a great discussion because they get really they dig pretty deep into it, no pun intended, and kind of give you some insight that you just don't see because you just don't know. So and Dave, I know you kind of touched on the roads and the bridges and all that, and that's kind of the next question that came up. So I thought I would um, pull that one up, and then your industry sends guys out on the road. So do you find that the infrastructure is working for you to get people to jobs and stuff like that?
Hmm. Um, that's a hard question. I mean, where we're at. where we spend a lot of time, I would say yes. I don't see any particular, you know, deficiency with either the transportation system, the roads, I mean, at any given time, you can always complain about the condition of the roads, but then you turn around and complain about the fact that they're fixing it, right? So, so there's no way to win there. But they're certainly in far better shape up here than they are down in Tucson. I'll tell you that.
I'll 100% concur with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I,
And then
I think it's good.
conversely, I think Mike, do you think that the infrastructure is good enough for people to get to you in the bookstore?
Uh, yeah, the infrastructure is not bad here compared to most other places. I mean, but as we add density, and then you have city councils that I know of going, let's go on road diets and cut lanes down. I don't see those two going together, but they seem to say, oh, the studies show. Okay, more people shrink the roads. I don't know how that's going to work out.
That makes sense. Okay. And then just real quick, there was a survey question about the mass transit options, buses, light rails, are they sufficient? And there was a little bit above half of a dissatisfaction with that. Rich, do you know if there were any supporting sentiments behind that or
None that I'm aware of. I think just again, it's just how people felt about it.
okay. And then it kind of moves into, do we think our workforce is qualified to meet high tech companies? That's a pretty solid no.
Yeah,
And
shouldn't
about
make the education community feel too good.
no, it's a 60%. I think I do think that came up in an education workforce meeting recently in relation to community sentiment, whether or not we're prepared for all of these tech jobs that are floating in. Um, I don't know. I don't know, Rich. Are you kept up on any of those? I know you're not in the meetings themselves, but do they kind of give you notes or anything?
No, and I wouldn't mind getting them, but no.
Okay. I won't press you on it then, since
The tech
uh,
stuff,
yeah,
the tech companies don't want college educated kids anymore because by the time they come out of college, they're behind. They want them straight out of high school. Google wants to hire straight out of high school. So does Facebook, Meta, because the 4 year degree, what they've learned in the 4 years is already old by the time they get out of college. They
Yeah.
want the black kids that are going to college coming straight out of high school, and they want to teach them in house.
Yeah, and
so
I'm
this
I'm
is
curious how AI is also affecting that as well because
It's
like
killing the mid levels. It's going to kill all the mid levels and all the entry positions. So if
it's
you're not a rock star, they're not going to need you.
well, and I've heard it presented a couple different ways. I mean, you're right. The entry level positions are the ones that are most immediately replaceable by, what AI can do. However, um, there are those who say that powered with the AI, because if you don't ever hire anybody at the entry level, then you don't have anybody to be the next people who are the rock stars. So yeah, you have to start hiring at some point. But I think it's going to be a lot fewer people. I think, and it depends on the industry, but looking particularly at high tech, I think, because I've heard estimates of around 90 to 99% of the software engineering jobs will be replaced by AI, which is very frightening.
I'm
I've
doing it
heard
right now
that
while we're having
as
a meeting.
well. But I also think that we're at this interesting juncture right now with education and particularly with the Gen Z, group. They are looking at education differently. So many of them don't want to pursue that typical degree path where you're in school for 4 to 6 years getting advanced degrees. A lot of them want to I just want to learn what I need to know to do this. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? So they're looking for ways to shortcut formal education and be prepared to enter the workforce sooner, but with the right skills at the right time, to go back to what Mike was saying.
Yeah,
So,
and I know trades are making a big comeback as well for because a lot
Yeah,
of people are looking at it
because
saying, well, you can't AI automate this.
well,
well,
no, and there's going to be what we're seeing is that there's going to be a big shortage in trade workers, because a lot of tradesmen are going to be retiring, and there
Hmm.
aren't necessarily people to fill those roles.
one of the one of the challenges that was expressed by one of the deans at MCC was the fact that, in essence, what was happening, and it was just happening especially in the trades, is that they would get a student in, say, for welding, and the student would start with the first couple of classes, and then they basically would get cherry picked by a company and would never finish their 2 year degree. So they would end up working, they'd end up doing the job that they were initially trained to do, but they would basically abandon the college track because they got a job. And so what ended up happening for the college is the college was losing that accreditation credit of that student having completed what they needed to complete, because they ended up not finishing because they ended up getting a job and not being there anymore. So I think that also has come into play, especially in the trades area, because you got to find a person. And if somebody shows enough talent, a lot of companies are like, listen, we'll get them to the finish line. If they're just showing us that they can learn, we're going to get them there. We don't necessarily need them to sit in class for 2 years.
I think in the trades, there are multiple pathways to get your journeyman, and to get your apprenticeship to become journeyman, then to become a master. I know my son-in-law is a master electrician, and he didn't go to college for that.
So, I just a couple of more things. I know we're kind of starting to compress time a little bit. I wanted to talk about planning and zoning because I know that's something that a lot of people have concern about. And those are kind of the last two questions on the survey. Basically, are you satisfied with the planning and zoning processes as it relates to new construction in the East Valley? And there was sort of Rich is a very muddled response.
I
And I
think, uh, yeah, my feeling on that was is that we got kind of crossways between contractors and developers and people in the construction industry and maybe some folks who are in the legal field.
So, okay. So I mean, there's no, I mean, honestly, it doesn't seem like there's a clear winner there. It just seems like
No,
everybody was kind of like.
And I think it varies from city to city. Like your experience in Mesa might be better than your experience in Tempe and vice versa. So because
I
it
think
says
that's
East Valley, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because
I think
it's,
that's huge. There are some people who, and here again, there are people who will rave about Mesa being, oh, it's they're great to work with in development services, and other people say, I will take a project anywhere but Mesa. So it depends on it depends on the experience that folks have had with us and what they're proposing, and does it fit with our general plan? And people get cranky about issues like this.
They
oh,
do.
understandably. Yeah. I mean, I think, people tend to have their opinion and they tend to hang on to it regardless of circumstance.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Bob, I'm gonna have to bail. I apologize, but
nope,
I've got
that's okay.
another
We're pretty
one of
much
these
done
coming
here.
up.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate you going through that with me and sharing your insights with
Oh
everybody.
yeah.
And anybody that wants a copy of this, we have it available digitally. I can send it to you, so feel free to shoot me an email and just say, "Hey, send me a copy of it," and I will do that. Does anybody else have any items they want to chat in on? Very good. Okay.
Did you say you're
Bob, I
looking
would
for
just
a chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, Rich.
yeah, I was just gonna say we launch this thing and we do it as a service. So if anyone has any thoughts or ideas about what could make it more valuable, certainly open to it. All critique is taken with a very open mind. So I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this discussion, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always fun to be in a presentation with you and to get to share some of that insight into what you're learning as the Credit Management Association guy. I think you bring a really great, unique inside opinion or feel for what's happening in the economy.
Well, I think we do, and as I said, our folks will see the problems first, and they're not ashamed to talk about them and talk amongst themselves about it because that's how they stay informed. So appreciate the time, sir.
Yep, absolutely. I'll let you go. And everybody else, real quick, does anybody have anything they would like to share out to the group, Kelly?
Just as an FYI, we will be hosting 2 days in Mesa for Arizona Tech Week. So we're pretty excited. We're going to have keynote speakers on Monday from Netgear. They're coming in from the San Francisco area. Boeing, we're expecting Meta. I have a couple of founders who will be speaking. Although we'll be speaking somewhat on AI, but from different perspectives. One will be talking about it from a workforce perspective. And then the other one will be talking about it from the marketing and relationship development experience for businesses, and how you can use AI to advance your company. And then fingers crossed, we're hoping to get two to come talk about Gemini. So that will be Monday, April 6th. It's a full day. Founders panel and a networking event at the end. So, hopefully you'll be able to share that information out. Look for more information to be coming. We're trying to just finalize agenda. So I'm facing pretty cancer. So those agendas are finalized. And then the second day will be at Mesa Business Builder Studios. And there'll be a number of different workshops that will be going on, including we have a social media influencer who has over 100,000 followers on 2 platforms. And she's going to be talking about content creation and how to really stand out on these different social media platforms. So with that, the Mesa Business Builder Small Business Assistance Program, if you'd like more information, feel free to reach out to me. We provide free professional advising and consulting for Mesa's small businesses and entrepreneurs.
Very good. Dave, what do you got going on?
I don't have anything else to add.
And that's totally
I have shared way more of my opinions today than I thought I was going to. So there you go.
Then that means that you're going to be a front runner to be chair.
There you go. Wouldn't that be just a real blessing, huh?
I did ask Mike and he just was like, no, that's not going to happen. So Mike, what do you got going on in Book Maze?
I'm about to go play a game.
Anything else going on?
No.
Maybe an event in June?
Well, that's a long time from now, Bob. It's June. Books and barbecue. Yeah, but yeah.
I'm just saying it's an event. You can
Gotta prime the pump, Mike. I start priming the pump.
I couldn't hear what she said.
Oh, she was telling you to prime the pump.
Prime them. Oh, there'll be a lot of people here.
Ryan, what do you guys got going on in Maricopa?
We got some good big things going on over here. We got our annual Reverse Vendor Expo coming up on March 26th. So that's an exciting opportunity for businesses to come out to the McDot warehouse and network with different county departments and purchasers. That's open invite. It's free. It's from 9 a.m. to noon, and we usually get a nice audience going.
I think Trish from our office is planning to come out and organize a contingent of our members that will kind of meet her there and kind of go through it together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. So next month, obviously the items that I deferred to next month, which would be, determining someone to be the chair of this committee, as well as I don't remember if I had an agenda, specific agenda item. I think I have Eric Emmert, our chamber lobbyist, coming in to talk about some of the bills and some of the things happening at the state capitol that relate to small business. So I will send you the Outlook calendar invite much sooner than this time around so that you can have that on your calendar to plan for. Otherwise, thank you all for taking the time to join me today. I hope you got something out of this. I hope this gave you some information that you can take back into your business and use. Otherwise, I'll let you go free.